called White Women Cry Rape, Black Men Die. White women often sacrifice their black lovers to save themselves. Willie McGee suffered such a tragedy. This married African American man and 31-year-old father of four from Laurel, Mississippi, was manipulated into a long-term sexual relationship with his employer, Mrs. Willametta Hawkins. McGee's wife figured it out when Hawkins confronted the couple one night as they walked home from the theater. McGee eventually broke off the relationship in November 1945, just as Hawkins' husband, Troy, was figuring it out. Willametta reported rape to the police. McGee was sent to the electric chair. The case to free him helped launch an international movement, but despite three interventions by the U.S. Supreme Court, McGee was executed on May 8, 1951, before a cheering crowd of nearly 500 white people, including Troy and Willametta Hawkins. Next point. Killing black men for suspicion of violating the South's sexual rules was commonplace. On January 8, 1949, for example, Ruby Floyd accused 7 black men of rape. Some suspects were rounded up, and by the end of the day, they were tried, convicted, and sentenced to death. Even the charge of I rape, had Mac Ingram sentenced to 2 years hard labor after a white woman accused him of looking at her. Jeremiah Reeves, a 16-year-old, seen by a nosy neighbor as his white female lover was undressing, was executed in 1957. Third point, Gertrude Perkins, 25-year-old, was walking home the night of March 27, 1949, when 2 cops accused her of public drunkenness, drove her away, raped her at gunpoint, and dumped her in the middle of town. She went straight to Reverend Solomon Shea Sr.'s house, where she was invited to stay the night. In the morning, Shea recorded her story, notarized it, and sent it to a syndicated columnist named Drew Pearson, and then took her to the police station, where they refused to hold a lineup. E.D. Nixon and other ministers got involved and organized the Citizens Committee for Gertrude Perkins. Shea was elected chairman, and when he left the meeting that night, he walked into a wall of police cars and headlights. He was beaten and arrested, and the ministers went to his defense. A massive campaign was launched to keep pressure on about Gertrude Perkins. Finally, her case was sent to a grand jury, but no indictment was returned. Many were pleased with the groundswell of protest around this case would be even greater in 1955 when Rosa Parks was arrested. Shea would become a pivotal leader in that movement. Okay, so these 2 slightly provocative questions. Do some white women have an especially strong attraction to black men? And if so, what do you think it is about? And do some white men have an especially strong attraction to black women? And if so, what do you think it is about?
I want to answer the first question.
Okay.
I don't want to insinuate that interracial couples don't exist, and that, if you're educated about the history of this country and about your family, that it can't work. I do think that it can work. Do I think it can work on college campuses? No, I'm really skeptical, and most of my experience has been through college campuses. And when I was abroad in Ghana, a girl who was on the trip with me to Ghana, not with me, we both went to different schools, but she had this fascination with Ghanaian men and Ghanaian baby boys. Like, she couldn't help herself. It was really ridiculous and very obvious, and extremely sad. And I think that stems from this whole idea of black people and black men particularly being hypersexualized black men have really, are said to have really excessively long private, they're like beasts in bed, and
Mhm.
have been portrayed as very docile and petite and ladylike, and so to be with a black man and to fantasize about a black man is a form of rebellion, just from my observation to them. Um, Extremely fetishized, exoticized, and not, I think that has a lot to do with it. They don't see black men as men. Um,
Mhm.
and so, and when you, and black men are forbidden in their communities, just like white women were forbidden in our communities. And so
Yeah.
we are constantly told that you can't have something. I think that of course that makes you want to have it, and I guess kind of put it on this pedestal of greatness, and not saying the black men aren't great, but just from my observation with white women, they just have a desire, it seems, to really be with one, but never bring them home, to meet the parents, and never really talk to them in public. It's usually like a one night party thing, and I think that it's still there. It's very evident, and I think the violence associated with it is honestly still there, which is why a lot of interracial couples get so much get attacked so much, because a lot of that hate and ignorance and racism is still there, because we haven't acknowledged the history of interracial rape and during the civil rights movement and
Mhm.
associated with white women in general. So that's my take.
Okay, thank you. I very much agree with your take, especially the part about the forbidden fruit. I do think there's something that just makes you want something that you've been told you can't have. Vanita, unmute.
Uh,
You're so dramatic.
Randy, I don't know about the forbidden fruit syndrome theory. Really. Um, White women are bored. Period. And I'm being honest, on the real. And it has nothing to do with forbidden fruit. I think they just, find a big strapping mandingo, 6'4", 280, to be exciting when they probably got a 5'2", 120 stockbroker at home in the bed. So I don't think it's all about forbidden fruit. I believe it's a lot about boredom. As you said so eloquently, Randy, and I do believe that, is that they can lay with them, but they won't take them home. Most of the educated Caucasian women will not take them home to meet their educated families.
Mhm.
Because 9 times out of 10, a lot of them aren't getting the educated black men either.
Right.
So, no, I don't think it's a forbidden fruit thing with them. I think it's just sheer boredom. And maybe it's just sex, period. You know what I'm saying? Just simply sex. I think sometimes people might look too far into things.
Uh-huh.
There's a thing called fads. If you notice lately in the past 15, 20 years, having a black man is like having for some white women, like having a pocket puppy. The ones you put in your car, move yourself. So
I'm gonna have to edit you out.
but you asked me my honest opinion.
And did I say honest?
No.
And I'm not saying that to offend anyone. I'm just calling it like I see it. I think a lot of it's just about sex. I don't think it has a lot to do with forbidden fruit. It's available. Why not? You know what I'm saying? There's no resistance. Right. There's no resistance by black men. Why not? You know, and
Yeah.
I guess maybe I'm speaking from a different place because if you grew up in the 70s, Michelle,
Yeah.
it was a very sexual time in the
Yeah. I mean,
70s and
our
60s.
generation was a different situation, but again, this chapter is set in the 1940s, and it
Yeah.
was truly a life-threatening,
Well,
proposition.
yes, yes, and that's why when push start to shove, they denounced that they had voluntarily had relationships with these black men.
Yeah.
You know, but I
Yeah.
do believe that it was just about sex. I don't necessarily believe
Well,
it was all about it.
that's a mighty big risk to take for sex.
Well, I mean, it as Randy said, the myth is that
I want to hear what Georgette has to say. Goodbye, Benita.
and Randy's gonna have skills.
Georgette, unmute yourself. Take your mute off at the top of the screen.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
I don't know if I can follow up with that. I'm serious. Okay, now look, I'm 51, so I've been through those generations.
Right, right.
My older brother and sister, they were in the BYO, Black Power movement, so
Uh-huh.
my mother came up in the South, and let me tell you, she had some serious issues with race, and that was because the way she was treated in South Carolina.
Uh-huh.
So, every generation, you come up and you have a little more freedom.
Right.
So you want to push the boundaries. And I'm going to have to refer back to the comedian Franklin Ajay, I think it was. He said in one of his skits that God put, the nerve endings in and made it so perfect that we would never stop procreating. So sex is a powerful force.
Yes, it is.
And then there's also, that curiosity, about, well, what is this person all about? They seem one way, and and you want to experience that.
Right.
But Lord have mercy, if somebody was going to lynch me and set me on fire and cut my privates off, I think I would have refrained. If you think back to the stories of, I think it's the interracial couple, I think it's the Loving
Loving v. Virginia. Uh-huh.
They went, to extremes to be together,
Right.
and I'm sure, black men and white women did the same, all over the country. So you have to wonder, well, why did they face, all of this opposition, this hate, and this potential violence to them every day? They might lose their jobs if people found out, who their partner was. And would you take the risk of, denouncing your loved one right there, because somebody saw you in the street, out in public?
Right.
I'm sure they had to go through that. And so, and then coming up to, today, I have two sons. All right. One, his wife is white, and being from the Afrocentric Black Power, but also I was in the Air Force for a long time, and I got to travel the world and see other people, but I never was really judgmental, and I always tried to believe that everyone is a human being, and if you have problems with someone else because of skin color or religion or whatever, that's your problem, and I'm not going to let it be my problem.
Right.
So, when my oldest son, he told us, he was going to marry this young lady, and we said, well, is it because you haven't, you can't find any black women? And I'm so sorry I said that at the time. But a mother saying, wanting to make sure it's not because you don't like black women,
Right.
So your grandmother's black. If my father is white, you know, I was raised as a black woman.
Yeah.
You know, my mother was true Afrocentric all the way.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes I had to look at her. You know, when I found out, you know, my dad was white, I'm like, Mom, you don't like white people.
Yeah. Yeah. How's that working? Yeah.
It's because people, you know, in their core, they're going to be human beings, and
Right.
you know what that other person, you know, whether they're Chinese, you know, white, black, green, or purple, as my mother would say, you know, what that's in them, that spirit that is attracting you to them. So I think it's on another level, and then we complicate everything with, you know, our false morals and how we want to view the world and ourselves and other people, and then we, you know, these laws that were put on us to try to continue to make us separated and feel, you know, make one race feel better than the other, and then, you know, the other race, well, am I human, you know? And then when I finally have my rights, you're not still not treating me like a human. So how will I, you know, reinforce my humanity and my rights? Well, I'm going to marry whoever I feel I love, you know, love to me. So and then people look at, you know, this new, you know, joining of the races here, and they have an opinion about it. And if it's negative, then here you are reinforcing, you know, all these centuries, and I'm going to say thousands of years, because, you know, racism, I believe, didn't start until after the fall of the Roman Empire, because you were really, you know, categorized by where you came from and not the color of your skin, but because then it was a method of, you know, financial and political a subjection of other people. You could take their money by saying, oh, this, you know, this is a Moor, you know, we're going to take his stuff, and he's, you know, he's black, so he can't be of God. You know, then they interjected religion into that. So, you know, it seems very complicated how we continue to keep, you know, problems going and keep us separated and confused.
Yeah, yeah. So, let us move on. We're trying to see how much of this we can get through. We're doing pretty good, though, I think.
Sorry to be so long.
No, it's okay. It's okay.